Welcome to a very special 10th episode and goodbye edition of the Language Barrier Podcast. I'm Ryan Cyclekey.
And I'm John Lutaya.
And on today's show, we're going to discuss Democratic Governor of Virginia and his recent pictures found of him in blackface and should he step down.
And we also discuss what it means for Qatar to win the Asian Cup.
And then my question of the day is we're going to discuss when is the right time to put your dog down?
And my question, Ryan, would you like to say it for me, please?
Sure. Let me translate for you. Language barrier. Japan's businesses, are they discriminating against Japanese college students who go abroad to study? And we'll discuss that.
That's right.
Okay. With that, on to the music and on to the pod. Right, Johnny, what's popping in your head today?
Oh my God. What's popping on my head is nothing else but what's coming ahead of me. I've had a very tremendous holiday. It was a good break staying in Colorado, and I can't tell you how ready I'm not to go back to school. This time, it feels so different. After doing all this podcast, I was feeling I belonged here. I was in the moment. I enjoyed this thing. Talking to you every day and discussing everything. I mean, I'm thinking about it. Yes, it's going to change. I'll miss it. I'll have to go back to school.
I can imagine you're not excited to go back to school. I don't know many kids who are excited to go back to school, especially, I mean, you've been sleeping until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon and your girlfriend came to visit and no homework. You're not having to read anything, right? Gave you the challenge to read. You were reading very much. We're having a good time. We're playing like soccer every day. And, he gave a few tennis lessons. And, of course you're going to miss being here. And we're going to miss you too. You've been on vacation. Nobody wants to go back to work after being on vacation.
Yes,
but, you're going to finish strong though, right?
Yeah, I'll finish strong.
Back to college. How many years of college do you have left? A year and a half?
A year and a half.
And maybe one additional year, right?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe 2.5 years.
Maybe 2.5 years.
Yeah, man, you're doing well. You're over halfway.
The journey's still on.
Sure.
Going strong. Looking forward to that.
Well, you're getting an education. That's a big deal. I mean, that's part of the reason you came to the U.S., right, was to get a good education.
That's right.
Yeah.
And education is going well. So far, so good. I'm excited to finish and see what life brings after that.
But I understand. We are going to miss you, too, and we're going to have RJ come and say a few things. RJ's my 6-year-old who you spent a lot of time with and was really your little brother. And to have him say proper goodbye would be a good way to wrap up our 10th episode, I think.
I agree with you.
Okay.
And what's popping in your mind?
Well, we just got back from Vancouver where we got a chance to watch my brother-in-law in action. He's having the chance to shoot his first TV series pilot. And it's very exciting for him. But I just left there, number one, being so proud of Keith. And, he's been doing this a long time. This is his big break. And everything seems to be lining up for him, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx him. But I think everything is lining up for him to be a huge success. And it's taken him, a number of decades to get where he is today. But I also leave there, number 2, with how strange it is to be an actor, right? I mean, we got a chance, you meet some actors in the hotel, and we met some of the actors on set. And they're all very, very nice, very lovely. But the world they live in is so strange. Like, you go to a shoot.
Yeah.
And you might be there for anywhere from days to months. So in this specific shoot, we were only there for 2 days, 2.5 days. But there's a lot of, the actors are there for a week to 2 months. And sometimes they're only on the set 1 or 2 days out of the week.
Yeah.
So that means there's tons of downtime. And it's so strange to be, especially the ones that are well known. And there were a few that were well known that were there. There was one guy that we saw in the hotel from Office Space. We didn't bother him, but the second he walked in, you just knew, boom, that's him. I don't know if you've seen Office Space, but it's a cult classic. It's hilarious. And you can't miss this guy. He's on a new show. I can't remember what the name of the new show is, but when he walked in, you just recognize him immediately, but he's alone. He's sitting down in the lobby alone. He's eating lunch alone. But you go everywhere else you go, and everybody recognizes you.
Yeah.
So how strange is that you're very lonely, but everybody knows who you are. Like everybody's snickering over in the corner, like, oh, look, there's like, it's John Lutai, oh my God. And then, but they don't come talk to you, or if they do, it's very like, let me get a picture with you, or, in some ways that's exciting, but I imagine it gets very lonely at times too.
Yeah, I could imagine the same too. But I guess it was a good moment to be in Vancouver, right?
Well, it was great to see Keith, and he was so in his element, and the show's called Woke. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great show. It's based on his life.
Hope it was a good time. We had a good time here at home. Me and my little brother RJ, we had the house when you guys left.
It didn't burn down when we were excited about that. And you guys were safe. Only one small slip on the bike, which was great. So when we went to Vancouver, John and RJ stayed back and hung out together, got him to school and got him to soccer practice and basketball practice and probably late bedtimes. John has a different mentality on bedtime than I do, which he knows he should follow, but perhaps he did not. What is your bedtime? Let's go into that. What is your bedtime philosophy?
My bedtime philosophy. One rule. It doesn't matter. It has no time. When you're tired, go to bed. That's what I do. When I'm tired, I go to bed. After that is, I usually have a routine. I would like to go to bed at 12. So, for people who know me, I tell them I go to bed at 11. But I usually go to sleep at 12. So at 11, I do my routine. I have my routine, stretch, meditate, and then go to bed. Well, I don't want to rush in my bed,
Yeah, that does not work for a 6-year-old, though. That's what we're talking about. That idea of, like, let him stay up as long as he wants until he passes out on the couch. The problem is the next morning when you wake up for school, the kid is tangry. He is tired and angry, does not want to get out of bed. It escalates quickly. You get a kid proper sleep. Their brains are working so hard. Kids like RJ are functional all day long. I mean, from 7 or 8 a.m., school until 3:30, soccer practice until 5 or 6, or basketball practice until 5 or 6, and then home. And then he wants to play soccer when he gets home. I mean, that's a long day.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like going to his own fun little job. And to have him stay up late, my goodness, you don't see the other side of that what a parent sees. And maybe you saw a little bit of this week, I'm not sure, of getting up for school, but woo!
Yeah. As I told you, Ryan, sometimes it's good to do the traditional things,
You're not hearing a word I'm lifestyle. Saying. Yeah, traditional lifestyle compared to who? I mean, who's saying this is traditional lifestyle? I think probably in Uganda, too, as a parent. Like, this is just a parental perspective versus a 22-year-old's perspective. That's what I think. Like, let's just be free. Let everything be free.
Lifestyle. We talk about traditional lifestyle. Let the kid hang out. Let the kid doze off, relaxing.
Yeah, if he wants to go...
Kids know.
And listen, if he wants to go ride his bike down the middle of the street, we should let him do that too.
No.
What are you talking about?
Some things we have control over that. So the kid... Well, typically, some kids I know, maybe things are changing. If they had a good day, long day, they'll start to black out at 8.
Yeah, but if he doesn't, your perspective is just let him stay up.
No.
Yeah, that's what you said. Now you're flip-flopping.
Take them to bed. Just don't keep them busy at night. That's the way.
Oh, so you're changing your perspective
to get them in bed. I remember I told you. Traditional. I'm about traditional. Put the screen away. Put all those iPads, any entertainment. Let them relax. Let them drop their energy. So when the time comes, you'll see them going to bed so happy. When it hits 7 o'clock, fun should be off, right? No TV, no phones, no ice cream, no dessert. Let the kid drop the energy slowly by slowly. And if bedtime is 8, the kid will black out at 8.
Yeah, that's something we talk about in the household. You're smiling because I'm going to give you a little bit of props there. That's a great perspective. For us, we wind down with TV, and I think some ways we should get rid of TV altogether. The way that TV is set up to get you glued to it, to get you addicted to it, to get you sucked into it. That's how they make money, right? If nobody's watching, there's no advertisers. There's no advertisers. There's no money for these studios to make. So their job is to try to get us glued any way they can. In some ways, are probably not healthy for us. The way they flash, bang, boom on the screen.
Family time is
and I agree. I agree with some of that of maybe getting rid of that altogether. And that's something where, as a family, we went from too many TVs to now we've got really 1.5, barely use the one upstairs.
Yeah.
And to the huge cable package to a very basic cable package just so we make sure we have some soccer still.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that winding down and getting rid of that might be a good thing, but you just completely flip-flopped on your stance. You went from let him be free and whenever he wants to go to bed to now, well, maybe I'll change on that. So which is it? Stick to one? But you also
if
love
they are
to change.
free, they'll get flexible. They will have a routine. You'll have a family tradition, and 7 o'clock, we have this thing, we'll eat and then relax, talk, do lousy things to cool down. Think of it like a cool down. You're a sports coach. Think it of a cool down. After very intense activities, it's time to wind up practice. We want to go low energy as everything is dropping, and by the time it's whatever you'd like to be bedtime, 8 or 9, the kid is ready. You read one bed story and the kid is zoned out. They're already tired. The energy is already down.
Okay, so I just want to officially, I agree with everything you're saying. I just want to officially put it out there that you flip-flopped within this podcast on your stance on that. You're allowed to change your mind. That's a good thing. You're learning and growing. I have to keep reminding you that you're only 22. You don't have it all figured out. You're a very smart 22-year-old who has one of the biggest hearts I know of, but you don't have it all figured out yet.
No, I don't.
So is it possible you flip-flop? Now watch him squirm. You will not get a straight answer now. You will talk your way around this. We will be sticking on what's popping for the next 25 minutes, possibly. Because did you just flip-flop within this podcast?
No, I think you know me.
So no is your answer.
You think you know me. In the past, I've been always like, give the kids some freedom. And I think you're still on that, like, yeah, John would like the kid to go to bed whenever the kid is ready. For sure, yes, I like the kid to go to bed whenever they are ready. But if we know it's gonna be bad for the kid the next morning, or it's getting late for the kid, for sure, we gotta put the kid in bed.
Okay, good. So language barrier, cultural language barrier is that I'll say, yes, you did just flip-flop and it's great that you did. It makes perfect sense what you're saying.
It was simple. I'm still on that stance. Let the kid have that freedom to go to bed. But your stance is we should take the kid to bed at a certain time. Mine is like no time unless the kid is out of control.
Oh, so you get a little caveat with yours. You're like, well, but the little side note here. Mine is this with this little extra thing on top of it. No,
mine comes easy.
I want to agree to disagree on the what's popping today. I think that you are flip-flopping. You don't think you're flip-flopping. Either way, we agree in the end that for sure turning electronics off at a certain time and winding down instead of kind of being stimulated up and whatever you're watching on television. I completely agree with that.
It should be like last minutes of the night, story time, winding up what happened to the day. Then everybody's going to bed happy. Okay, Ryan, what's your headline?
Okay.
It's a tough one.
My headline today is Democratic Governor of Virginia. Let me pull up his name here real quick. Democratic Governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam. He appeared in blackface in a 1984 school yearbook. And it's weird because he first came out and said, "It was me. I'm so sorry. It's not what I stand for." And then he flip-flopped the very next day and said, "Wait a minute, that wasn't me." And then Trump comes along and says, "Well, he's a joke. He needs to step down." Coming from somebody who did far worse and didn't step down is a little weird. So it's a lot to unpackage. But, I mean, what do you think about that people were able to find this picture of him from 1984 and now he's being held against it because he dressed up in blackface. He painted his face black to look like Michael Jackson, and he was standing next to somebody in a KKK, sheets. What do you think about that?
I mean, those are one of the moments that we've seen happen in this modern history for a very long time. We talked about this with you one time. Why do people come and bring up all these old stories when you gain fame? And this is another example. Like, we've had this topic on the extreme end, which I don't want to bring up right now. But for me, I don't really agree with such things. I know history is important and everything is important. But why you bring it up at this particular time after many, many years? I think it's what is it called? It's a sabotagement, if that's a word.
That's not a word, but sabotage. Okay.
It's a sabotage.
So you think this Democratic governor of Virginia was sabotaged?
Yeah, it was a sabotage. It's true politics. They just want him down. Why would you bring up a very bad story at this time when somebody's running for governor, when nobody for sure bothered to find out, like, the story was never big? If if you have a story that it's big, it's always been following you, and then you're trying to gain in power, that should make sense. Like, that should really make sense. Your story has been all over the news. We know you did this and this in the past. There's no way we can let you, be what you're trying to dream. So for me, I know it's a bad thing. When we look at what happened really connected with the US history, that's not a good image. We don't want that person taking over our lives and making decisions, being in power because they have certain beliefs. But who knows again? We all do stupid things when we're young, which is part of life. We have to experience things. And maybe this guy has changed. You've taught me how to understand people, give them a benefit of a doubt. And let's look at the recent history. What has this guy been up to? Does it connect to the picture very many years ago? What did you say, 18?
It was 1984.
1984. That's so long ago. And if bring it to now, for me, that's where I go. I go out of my intentions. Like, if you know me as some guy, that's when you can get really surprised. I don't know John really, because for me, some things I would just be like, no. Even though I know they look harsh on the surface, but I'll be like, no. It's a long time ago. Let's try to see what's been happening. The recent story connected to the very story long ago, and move on. What do you think?
Well, I think this is a really good debate to have, right? Of, should you be held responsible? Should you be held accountable for what you did 10, 15, 20 years ago? And sabotage, I don't think, is the case. I think for sure there's people that are going to bring up these things that you have done.
Yeah.
And be like, well, see that he did this. And then society basically decides if that's right or wrong. Mm. So should we look past it and say, oh, he was just a 20-something-year-old, because this wasn't when he was in college. This was when he was in medical school. So he was in his 20s at this time. Yeah. He wasn't 18. He wasn't 17. He wasn't 16. And even then, are we saying, listen, whether you're 17 or 25 or 30, whatever age that is, you did this stupid thing. We're going to let bygones be bygones, and let's trust you at who you are today. Yeah. I think it's a tough debate around, sure, I'll let him go. Yeah, no problem. We're going to let that go, wipe the slate clean, and we move forward. Or we say, listen, that's part of who you are today. And depending on how severe of the thing you did in the past, you should be held accountable for. And what we talk about are things like Al Franken, who had some terrible photographs and of him putting his hands on a woman's breasts, jokingly, and a few other things along those lines. And he stepped down immediately as a Democrat. But there's also things like the president, who admitted on camera of grabbing somebody's pussy. And he didn't step down. I think there's, so there's different kind of levels to this, I think, number one. But number two, there's another topic of most Democrats, besides this particular governor, have stepped down when something came up, whereas most Republicans have not. They have not taken responsibility for it. So I'm more on the side of that people should be held responsible depending on how severe the thing they did. Yeah. And I think blackface is pretty high up there on the scale of things. He might have been trying to do it as a funny thing, but I don't know who in their right mind thinks that dressing up in blackface and standing next to a Ku Klux Klan member in a funny photo is really funny. Mm. So in some ways that kind of ties into who he is today.
That's right. I'm a black man, and this is part of us, right? So for me, this is a serious matter. But as I told you, I like to understand the things just more than politics. That's what we've known politics to be about. It's two people competing for a place, and sure, it's like a debate. It's like what we're having now. For somebody to win, we have to come up with reasons supporting they have to win, and we have to come up with downfalls for the other side so that they can look less. Like, we all know the common saying about life. Nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes. We should give people a second chance. Well, these things said then if we, so I think there are two perspectives here. There's a political perspective of someone wanting to win. They're pushing this into our minds as a society to accept. And if you look at it into our society values, we all make mistakes. We should give people a second chance. Things like those ones, you gauge them with, where's the person standing right now? I don't know this guy, but I wish I knew this guy, and I could compare his life the last 10 years, see what he's been up to, see his personality, is he a good guy? And just if I was going to give him the governor, I would just judge him from the content I know in my story and what he's up to. Give him a chance than looking up very, very long ago. I mean, it's a very sad history, but I know if we're going to go back to our society values of giving people a second chance, we all make mistakes. Sure.
So, I hear what you're saying too. Giving people a second chance, I think those things are all good. And I don't think this is such an easy answer. Even as I say how strong I am against him, I'm also, we need to forgive the past. Although this is one issue that's really tough to forgive, I think, given our history, right?
Yeah.
The history of the United States and how we became a nation on the backs of somebody else. You think about the DNC chairperson, Tom Perez. He wrote, "It's time for Ralph Northam to step aside and let Lieutenant Governor Justin Fairfax serve Virginians as their next governor." So his own party is asking him to step aside. So it seems like today's cultural norm is that we don't forgive for the past, especially, right? Very specifically, if you're going to decide you want to run for a very public office,
That's right.
all of your past is going to come to light. And that's the game that you have to play, is that if you're going to play that game and you get found in blackface, or you get found taking pictures of putting your hands on somebody's breasts as a joke, which isn't really funny, that's actually sexual harassment, you step down. So there might be a different standard for that, although, some people, somebody who works for a local business in Denver may not be as public, and those things may not be brought up because nobody's trying to take them down, like you're saying. So there's a game to it. But that's part of it, though. If you're going to be in the spotlight is bright. And I think they know going in that there's no secrets, that they're going to look into your past. And they might find you in blackface, and you might have to step down if you get caught with that, because that's a big deal based on the way our country was developed.
That's right. Right. To conclude this, on my side, it's very simple. For me, I would gauge you what you did in the past and who you are now, and also what you did in the past, I think, matters. Like for somebody like Hitler, if they were still alive and they wanted to run for any public office, there's no way I'm going to support Hitler.
I would hope not. That's like genocide or murder.
So it's like what you're involved into, how much damage were you able to do, and were you able to stand proud for what you did? Did you do it over and over again? So did this guy constantly appear in KKK? Does he have that history of what's relating to that picture? Like, did it come over, repeat time over time? And lastly, was this thing huge at that time? If that thing was huge at that time, like Hitler's example, I don't support that.
Well, I think that's a very big leap, though. So you're identifying a scale. And there's a certain scale where you don't forgive and forget, right? Murder is when you don't forgive and forget. Somebody murders, that stays with you forever. And you're not going to say, listen, you know what? You're a good guy. I know you murdered that family back then.
No way.
You're a good guy. You should come and hang out. Let's go have dinner later. I don't think we're forgiving that one. But where is that line then? So, there's all sorts of a range from theft to sexual harassment to, where's that line, I think, is what we're describing as a society, right? We're in the U.S. right now. The U.S. society, clearly, if you're going to step into the spotlight, there's a pretty high moral standard that if you cross something and it was documented, this moral line, you ought to be fired. And Democrats seem to step up. Republicans don't, by the way. Which is another issue. But where is that line?
That line is very simple as what you stand for, right? We all agree we are who we are for what we stand for. So if you clearly did something in the past and that's what you stand for, that's what you're known for, time after time, I think that's it. That's it. You don't want to put yourself in a terrible place, right? That's what we're talking about. It affects your life. And who knows, sometimes the stories really don't come out the way they're supposed to be. That's what I'm afraid sometimes, especially picture stories, right? So sometimes maybe I may be somewhere in the streets walking. I like to walk around streets. And I happen to be somebody happen to be a protest against something that is not appreciated in the community. Then a photographer happens to get my image within that protest. They have all the right to make up a story about me if I'm famous, right?
Sure.
So that's what I'm calling it's a sabotagement. Nobody's going to believe because it's a picture story. It's a picture story.
I think it's interesting that you think majority of these stories that come up are sabotage. I don't think sabotagement's a word though, by the way, but language barrier. But your first reaction is that they're being sabotaged is your first reaction to most of these stories. And I think that what you brought up is true, that you need to go do the research on the person first and see what they're about and whatever. And depending on the severity of the issue too.
Yeah.
And so let's be more specific. In this specific case, if it is indeed him, which is what needs to come out, which is clear. It's in his yearbook. It's on his page, his actual page that has other pictures of him.
Yeah.
It clearly seems to be him, but maybe they made a mistake on the picture. It doesn't seem like it, but that's what comes out. So let's say it is him. Should he step down? Because he dressed up in blackface. And
I think he should step down if that's what the society is. I'm in favor of democracy. Give people what they want. I like freedom. If people don't like you and it's what's affecting people who are going to give you the vote, you should step down.
That's right.
But I would also encourage people to be more, bring back the culture values, give people a second chance, and we all have to understand we make mistakes. My responsibility will be to track down this guy. How many times did he do this thing? What is his history? Is that who really is?
Well, I think that besides the point, it's not. I don't think the point is how many times did he do this bad thing. You're right, but because I don't know they're going to be able to track that. But it is the severity of it too. So I agree with you that he should step down. He's representing, if he did this, if that's him in the pictures, that's the consequence of you being in public light. You're going to step down because you represent African Americans in your community. You are the direct representation for the government, for voting, for the African American community.
Yes.
And if you're going to dress up in blackface, you need to step down. You are not representing those people anymore. Yeah. You have hurt those people, actually, and they no longer trust you.
Yeah.
You need to step down. The second point that you brought up, I think, is a good one of, if somebody goes to court, I think this is your point. They're innocent until proven guilty. Get charged of murder, may be obvious, but we need to prove it.
Yes.
Right before they actually get convicted.
Yeah.
So in this case, you're saying that people, I think, we should be careful if somebody comes out and says something about a particular person, they did this very bad thing, like Kevin Hart. He had a stand-up act where he said something about the LGBTQ community. It was a joke. Should we automatically crucify him and say he's a terrible person, or should we go look into that really and see maybe there's some context to it? Maybe he supported the LGBTQ community in the past and still does to today, and we should let that one go.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a circumstance where you go, okay, he can learn his lessons and we can move on. He doesn't have a strong viewpoint. He was telling a joke.
That's
right. We've lost our sense of humor a bit in the U.S. as well. I agree with that too. I think there's it's scary if somebody's going to come out and just say something about you and everybody believes it right away without any proof.
Yeah.
I think that's also true.
That example from Kevin Hart is a perfect one. You've said it right. There's no other way to do these things. But again, as I'm telling you, I like democracy, I like freedom, I respect everybody, and I'm a person of free will. So sometimes it's good to listen to the public. You may be in a position where you did something like for Kevin Hart. That's his job to do jokes. And when he did that joke, people took it harsh, So did he really mean what it meant? We don't know. Yeah. But we can study his consistency and his lifestyle. And if we can bring in the context of his job as a comedian and doing comedians, one thing of being a comedian is if you're a great comedian, you should be able to speak out your mind on every topic, right? That's what makes comedy good. And if you're able to do that, especially in a way that is sometimes offensive to sensitive people, it's going to be bad. And you should take responsibility. And that's why the society wasn't happy. I mean, that's the dilemma of life.
Yeah, I mean, with comedy, right? I don't think this was the main idea of the topic, so we won't spend much time on it. But it's not that there's no sense of humor anymore. I think that you just have to choose your sense of humor wisely.
Yeah.
For this specific, because you have to take responsibility for the current climate that we're in.
Yes.
We have a president now who has offended a wide range of people. So people are very offended very easily now. Like, it's very scary to be living during a time where your commander-in-chief has some very controversial viewpoints, right? Mm-hmm. Racist viewpoints, sexist viewpoints, for example. That's very scary for most of the people that are living in the United States. So it's a weird climate. As a comedian, I think you can still be a very funny comedian. Yeah. But you've got to pick and choose your topics a little bit better. You've got to be thoughtful of what climate that we're in. I think that matters. That's context. But to sum this up, it sounds like we both agree that the governor of Virginia should step down.
I agree. He should step down.
I agree. If it's true. If it's not true, then he gets the chance to explain himself and put that proof forward. Okay. Makes good sense. All right, so let's go on to a little lighter subject, right? That was a pretty heavy subject. Let's go on to your headline. My
headline is simple as, if you've been following what's been happening in the soccer world, what is it called? Qatar won the Asian Cup for the first time. They beat Japan 3-1 in the finals. I mean, it's a big win for Qatar. Qatar, one of the UAE communities that will raise the World Cup in 2022. So for them to come up and win this special cup, Asian Cup, which puts them on the map of the world. I was bringing up this topic to you and you're like, John, I don't think people know Qatar.
It's not that I didn't know Qatar. I just
Qatar like soccer and...
Well, no, my point is not that they don't know Qatar. My point is that I don't know people are paying attention to Qatar versus Japan today in the U.S. Yeah. I think soccer is growing hugely in the U.S. I mean, it's good. We'll speak real talk on our podcast here. I mean, this is something that would typically be behind the scenes, but I don't know that there's much that's behind the scenes. So it was something I was curious and was skeptical about. Would people be interested in listening about and hearing about Qatar's win in the Cup? But keep going. Prove the point. Why should they be interested?
They should be interested because Qatar is going to host the World Cup in 2022. Okay. Point is very clear. And for them to win gives them publicity, gives them energy to compete in the cup, gives them confidence. And another thing is, with this win, Qatar gets themselves a ticket to compete in one of the elite cups in the world. Like for me, after the World Cup, I would pick Copa America as the second competitive cup. That's where like most talents, if we know, talent in soccer is, we can debate that some other time. Does most talent come from South America or Europe in soccer? You know, one time me and you were speaking and we were like, yeah, I think Brazil has the most talented soccer players in the world.
Yeah, there's some great books out there about why that a lot of great soccer players have come from Brazil, right? Because they use a heavier, smaller ball, they play on the beach, and they've turned out lots of great players.
So we can talk about it another time. But for Qatar to win this Asian Cup, they got themselves a invitation ticket to compete in Copa America. So, which will be a huge thing for them, right? If you've been following Copa America, it's very, very big gaming down there in Copa America. It's followed so much, it's huge. Made Messi cry for many years. One of the greatest soccer players, Messi, is crying over that cup. He has never won it. He's lost in the finals twice. And the last time he lost in the finals, he retired from national football.
He's back now, right?
We're not sure, but yes, they had to beg the king, please come back. He felt he's not serving the country. Why? Because that cup is so competitive. That shows how competitive the cup is. You know, for the greatest soccer player and one of the greatest soccer teams. I mean, Brazil was ranked in the top 3, but they're finding it hard to win this cup. This cup is so passionate. So for Japan, for Qatar to compete in Copa America, it's gonna be big. If you didn't know Qatar and you're in America, don't worry. Keep your eyes open and your ears active. You will be able to see what I'm talking about. It's like I'm predicting the future. You will see Qatar in Copa America. Qatar has talent. We don't know how it's gonna go, but it's huge. It's huge. I mean, think about businesses and think about publicity, right? For you to gain fame, you need to do something crazy. And for Qatar, this was some crazy move. They're going to gain publicity, and we'll enjoy soccer. Soccer will be more diverse.
So are you saying that this is I'm trying to get into this. I'm really having a tough time, to be honest with you, getting into this topic today of Qatar winning. I think for sure I'll be more on the lookout for Qatar and see how they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is the storyline really, though? I love storylines.
Yeah.
Is the storyline here really that Qatar was a huge underdog to Japan and they ended up winning 3-1 in the end, that they upset the big beast?
I think, yeah, of course. Japan was in the World Cup. Japan has been known to be famed. Japan has few players in elite leagues in Europe and everywhere. Japan was bigger than Qatar, of course. So it was an upset. I'm sure the people in Japan, they are so sad. But the people in Qatar, they are so happy. I mean, if you look up the ranking, what is Japan ranked?
Japan's ranked 50.
50 in the
amongst
world.
all of the teams. Yeah, number 1 is Belgium and France. Belgium's number 1, France number 2, 3 is Brazil, Croatia 4, 5 is England.
Yeah. So would you say even Japan is the top-ranked team in Asia?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, if you look around, I think. But yes, it was a big game. You follow Tottenham, right?
Sure, yeah.
And did you know your player was playing in that cup?
Who's that?
Song.
Yeah, okay.
Song played in that cup for Korea. And imagine for somebody to come from the biggest league in the world to play in Asian Cup. It's a big thing. It's a big deal. And if superstars are not able to lift their countries, Song is not able to lift his country, what does that mean? That means Qatar has class. We should be looking out for it. I'm just happy for them. They're bringing up to your attention. The main deal here is Qatar is going to host the World Cup 2022. And I think this has been a huge advantage for them. I hope we start to see Qatar and we start to get ready for that 2022 World Cup and embrace Qatar. It's always good. The only reason we enjoyed the World Cup in 2018 was because Russia was able to perform so well. It's always good if a host country can give competition to the cup they're hosting. It doesn't feel good when you're out the first week. We're not able to upset any news and you're the main guy.
Well, I think we were excited about the World Cup because so many stars are playing in one place. Like, oh my God. It's only every, 4 years that the tournament is held.
Yeah.
So there's that build up to it. I think that was a storyline. One of the storylines that Russia is doing well, that was one of the many storylines that made it exciting for sure. Yeah. It's nice they're doing it. I think, especially with what's going on between Russia and the U.S., made it even more interesting, right? And also with the doping that has happened in the past in Russia, too. That always plays into that story as well, the doping. But I think what's an even more interesting storyline of this is that Qatar's actually ranked 93.
Yeah.
Do you know what Uganda's ranked?
75.
They're ranked 75. So you imagine, would it be a huge upset if Uganda beat Japan?
Yes.
So that's what we're talking. This is a huge upset. For me, personally, this is that storyline for me of like the underdog comes in, they're not supposed to win, huge upset over a top 50 team in the world. I
mean, if we're a famous news anchor or if we're famous for letting out the news in the world, we can make this as a huge upset. But even the famous sports links, they didn't pay attention to this. That's what makes it like I bring in kind of law. If I tell you Qatar beat Japan in Asian Cup, I mean, not so many people care about the Asian Cup or not about the Asian Cup. That's what makes it interesting, So it always like, what is the name of the tournament that will make the upset big? So for Qatar, I think they're unfortunate. They cannot get the fame they deserve for this win. It's a huge upset. What you're saying is very true. I hope when they make the Copa America Cup, they'll be recognized their journey and we start to appreciate their game. For me, I'm just looking out for the 2022 World Cup. As I told you, if you host something, you need to be huge. And US is going to host the World Cup, right?
The 2026?
Yes.
Yeah, Denver lost their bid. We were supposed to get some games in Denver, which I was excited about. It'd be so fun to take RJ to that. But we lost the bid, right? I think they said, I don't know if this is true or not, but the rumor I heard is that we don't have enough seats in our stadiums to host a World Cup soccer game.
FIFA is about money.
So I hope it's close by. But no, you're pointing out it's great. I'm going to look out for Qatar more. Hopefully people listening will look out for Qatar more and see how they're doing and watch them on the road to the 2022 World Cup.
All right, let's move on to the question of the day.
Okay, my question of the day is, when is the right time to put down your dog? I bring this up for a couple of reasons. But, I had a dog when I was a kid. The dog's name was JC. Very sweet dog. And this dog, its brain was so strong, I guess, that its hair was falling out at the end of its life, had these lesions on her body. It was very sad to see her go. Her legs, her back hips started going. She didn't really move much. And we eventually went to the point where her quality of life is so low, she's not happy.
Yeah.
We went and put her down. So my question is, when is the right time to put your dog down? And we bring this up as well.
Yeah.
Because we have Banjo in the house right now. Banjo's still very strong. He's 11 years old. He still likes to run for the ball at least a few times.
That's right.
But he's starting to get these lesions on his body, and you can see the end is coming soon. So when's the right time to put down your dog? Do you just, let it be free? Let the dog pass away in the house when it's time? Or do you, when you see a dog that is, maybe has the will to still be there, but the body and everything is shutting down, they're in pain, do you decide to kind of say, hey, let's take you into the vet. It's time. It's your time, buddy. Wow. And celebrate their life.
Okay. I think you're asking this question to somebody you're forgetting. I was never a pet person.
Okay.
I came to
more interesting. Let's go.
I came to love dogs when I started living with you. So first I'll start from the experience and the society values, how American value pets, especially dogs. Number one pets in America, right? So to look at this thing, one experience, one particular story I can look from is, my friend Carl Swansman.
Sure.
He had 3 dogs. And one of the dogs, was it 2 years ago, got cancer, and we decided to put the dog in bed. He told me, yes, John, was the right thing to do. The dog was not having food. It was painful, but we had to do what we had to do.
It's very sad, yeah.
I mean, from that perspective, you have to gauge. It has to be on the extreme. It also depends with the love, the affection you have for the dog, but it has to be to the extreme, where the dog is not eating, the dog is not running. Some people don't care about money. They'll put every cent into the dog so long as they think it will be okay. And for some people, that's not like the case. If money, they think they're just spending so much on the dog and the life quality of the dog is not getting better, they'll still decide to put the dog to bed. So those are the reasons, from at least what I see, small, what could be happening in the US. From my standpoint, as a person who don't love pets, you really want to know?
Sure. Of course. Go on with it.
I mean, it's not what you're going to think I'm going to say. It's going to be so simple as let the dog live.
Just put him out in the streets, let him walk away? Just put him out in the streets, let him walk, let him leave?
No. Take care of your dog. You love your dog. Live with the dog. Show that it's like, having those last moments. One thing we don't realize in life is the last moment of anything. It's very intense. That's when you get to appreciate everything you had. So that time is when you should appreciate and let go, because the ending is coming. So why put yourself in a stressful moment? Relax. Have that last time with the dog, so long as the dog is still eating, still moving. If you can pay the bills for treating the dog, and you're okay with that, treat the dog. If you're not, but you still have the dog, I mean, you must be hardcore. For me, I've been telling you, sometimes I was worked out for you. Traditional treatment. I'll try to treat my dog like the only reason I say this, when I was a kid, I used to raise animals. I used to raise chicken, I used to raise doves, and sometimes I just didn't know, because back then there was no treatment for most things. So for me to see my animal or my creature die was not that painful, because I know I did everything I could to save the creature. I would try to save the creature, treat the creature, and we're in that moment together. We are struggling together. The end is coming. I'm not even sure what I'm doing, So if my dog is in pain or is sick and maybe age, I'll do what I can to support the dog. Do research and try out different methods. Just enjoy the moment with the dog. And if the dog dies, it has died. But I don't want to put the dog in to sleep. It's like...
You want to let him naturally go.
I want to let him naturally go. So long as we have those moments. I mean, if he can eat, can be with me, I'll do my best.
But if you're going to naturally let him go, there'll be a point where he doesn't eat. He can't eat anymore. His body doesn't want to accept the food, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to have to live through that. So that's what you're saying is whatever that is, you're going to let him pass on his own free will. I'm not going to force it.
That's right. Free will. I know it's painful. Some people cannot see it. But again, it's the nature of life. That's how most things die if they're healthy. You don't die all of a sudden. You see yourself going down. And that's how things with life have been designed to go away, right? You just need to go slowly. You may think they're in pain, but that's the nature. Think of it like the cycle. The baby is born. He's helpless. He's not in pain, but he's growing. At the same time, when you're old, you may not be in pain, but you're just getting weaker. You still have the same energy, but you're just getting weaker. And if you're okay with that, I mean, that's my own theory. Appreciating life, not taking life away. That's my own theory. I don't know if many people would hang on to that.
I think it makes good sense. I think it gets tough when you go to the vet and, you're looking at bill after bill after bill, and they say, well, they're not really going to recover from this, but you might be able to prolong their life a little bit.
Yeah.
They're on their way out. You might get an extra week or a month, maybe a couple months extra.
Yeah.
I think it's tough. You look at your dog suffering and in pain and not able to move. They're not happy. I think that's tough to kind of see them live through that too. And maybe it's more selfish from our point of view of the owner, right? Of going, well, maybe it's us that can't handle it. Maybe they can. And they can't really speak. But when you do throw in money into it too, I think it does make you think. Now, for me, I think the tough decision would be that I would want to, I agree with you, I would want to let him kind of, maybe my dog previously, JC, or Banjo now, who's nearing the end too, let them kind of live out their life and pass away naturally. But when you see them suffering and you see the price tag along with kind of keeping them still here, you start to think about it, though. But I think I would probably land in the camp of, let them pass naturally. Yeah. But I think it's a tougher decision. It's not black and white. I think there are other factors. If you really can't afford it, I think then it becomes really tough. I think your choice is probably pretty clear. To do the treatments and to do, the surgeries and things like that. That's thousands of dollars.
Yeah. I mean, if money is the problem and you think you're spending a lot of money, you have two options. Put the dog to sleep or save the money, because either way, the dog is coming to that end. Why not wait for the end to come? Try to treat the dog naturally with your own way you think you can do it. Anyway, the dog is getting weaker every day and every day. That's the natural state, right? So just keep the money, hang on to that, and wait for that time. It's like, I don't know if you can compare this, but I think it's like human beings. Imagine putting somebody to sleep, your family member.
Yeah, you can't do that, though. I think that's actually literally illegal. Put a family member to sleep without their consent, or, you know what I mean? You can't.
Yeah, it's sad. Imagine.
No, but you literally, legally cannot. I can't. If you're on your deathbed and I'm like, yeah, take him out of his misery. Yeah. I can't do that.
It's sad.
No, but no, not that I can't. I'll go to jail. I'll be killing you.
Yeah, if you would, it would be so sad. I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
Not just that it's sad. I would go to jail.
You would go to jail. So that's murder.
It's murder. I can't tell them to put you out of your misery.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, can't do
I
that.
was watching a TV show called The Haves and the Have-Nots. Okay. And in this TV show, there was this kid was hit by a car, and the mom knew the kid, but the mom never introduced the kid to his father. So before the kid was hit by the car, he had found out who his father was, and the father was starting to know the kid. And so the kid was hit with a car, brain trauma, in a coma, breathing on life support. So what happened was, I think this father in the show, this father had kidney problems. So the father wanted somebody to replace kidneys, and you know how. I didn't know that. I thought it was legal, but in the show they present to us it was fine to put somebody to bed. So the father asked the mother to end the kid's life so that the father can have the kidneys from the son.
And this might
then
have been
they went to court, and then the judge was like, sure.
Sure, and I think these are cases where if somebody's on life support, where they have a machine that's keeping them alive, then you can pull the plug. I think that's a different scenario than somebody who's, not being kept alive by a machine. If that makes sense.
Oh, that's different?
Yes.
Wow, but that's also sad. For the dog, I mean, it is what it is. It's personality, but sometimes, like for me, the theory, as I told you, it's good to enjoy those moments and live the last minute of it.
I agree with you. I mean, I think it comes down to something you brought up in an earlier podcast of just responsibility.
Yeah.
If you're going to take on a dog, the responsibility is that you kind of see that dog through its death.
Yeah.
Through the end. Everybody has choice. I think I'm certainly in the camp of, that's our responsibility to let this dog live on. If we can afford it, we want to make sure the dog stays as healthy as possible and lives the last years the best that they can. And when it's time their time to pass, sadly, it's their time to pass. And it's not an easy topic, and I know there's probably a wide range of views, but I certainly think the natural way is probably our way.
Okay, that's a good one.
All right, well, let's go on to your question of the day.
Yeah, my question of the day. We discussed a little bit how Japanese culture is still conservative.
Conservative?
Conservative. And for them, they will still like to do things the way they did them long time ago. They still want to stick to their roots. At some time, which is right, at some point, which is not. No, some roots, they have to.
What's the story? Don't you have your girlfriend is in Japan? She's going through something now, and she made some comment, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So she wants to come to the US for grad school to study abroad, but she is terrified. She's scared. What the Japanese culture, I'm not sure how big of it is perceived that way, but if you study abroad and you go back to Japan, you view differently.
Unless you go to one of the top colleges, right?
Yeah,
Harvard, Stanford.
That's right.
Okay.
So, whereas like some countries, if I come to the US, I'm a Ugandan, I go back to Uganda, I have a great path. It's the opposite for Japan. So she's struggling with that, and
so she's terrified if she comes to the U.S. for grad school and she goes to Linfield for grad school, for example, which is a great college, private school in the U.S. It's not well known in Japan, so they frown upon you going to any school but a premier school and getting additional education and coming back. People who hire her will look at her and go, nope, that's not good enough. And maybe for one of two reasons. Maybe it's one of the reasons that she didn't stay in Japan.
Yeah,
so one of the reasons?
Yeah, one of the reasons why if you study abroad and trying to come back to Japan, it's one of the reasons, as she told me, was the Japanese culture or the companies trying to employ you. They're afraid you've lost some of the cultural values of Japan. Yeah. So you won't be able to cooperate within their businesses the way they want, right? So, like for me, how I looked at this was like diversity, what businesses are realizing now, diversity is important.
Yeah, for sure. Well, my question is too, I agree with you. Diversity is important and traveling the world is important.
Yeah.
And it almost seems like they're discouraging you to travel the world. They want you to be more nationalistic, more get your education here unless you can go get something that's far superior.
Yeah.
And we're going to discriminate against you when you come back to the U.S. and you've got a non-premier school education. And we're not going to give you a job. But if you can't get a job, it's not going to be a high-level job that you're actually trained to do.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right. So, one of the fear you lose the Japanese culture values. As we told you, we've had a little bit of insight of Japanese culture, not so sure on everything, but at least we know how Japanese, they value their culture. They're so preserved.
Very proud, yeah.
Very proud to that. And if you're losing that, that's a big thing. So another reason was the language. I didn't know that, but it shocked me. She said, in Japan, when you're learning English sometimes, it doesn't make that big of a difference to learn English because the culture is still so valued into Japanese. You need to understand Japanese. And they're afraid if you go out, you lose some of the language, which affects your job if you're trying to apply in Japan. They value language so much. So you need to stay in that. And for me, hearing those reasons, like, it scared me. That's why I brought up the questions.
Yeah, you're right. They might be in the past too. I mean, I was just looking at an article here on The Guardian that basically one of Tokyo's top medical schools, they admitted to changing results of their acceptance exams to exclude women. So maybe some of the things, they're very proud in certain ways, and maybe they're stuck in the past in a few ways too, towards women, towards these kind of views of somebody going abroad, learning new things and coming back, and maybe they're losing some of their cultural values. And we want somebody who is completely on board with Japanese values. Maybe that's a bit behind. And the question would be is, how does that hurt Japan? Does that hurt Japan in the way of, are they going to lose talent? These businesses who are doing this, are they going to lose talent because they're not hiring people?
Yeah.
Are they going to not be able to progress their business because nobody's thinking outside the box?
Yeah.
Those are the questions that I would have towards some of these businesses of not bringing in talent from all around the world.
That's right. Yeah. It's so strange. I mean, Japan, they're proud and they feel they're up there. They rely less on the outside world. So for them, I think it's all inside. If we're inside, we cooperate inside. Their businesses, how they do. They have what? If they're valuing Japanese more, that means it's all about Japanese. That's their market. They're not so much about international market. And yeah, for me, it looks scary for somebody like me who wants to go to Japan and hearing these stories. That's why I come in, I have to think again. And
yeah. No, it's true. As an outsider kind of coming into the country, and you have that experience coming into the U.S., and I don't know, in some ways I would say that, your personality will come out no matter where you're at. If you're a genuine person, people will appreciate that wherever you're at.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've never had to go. I have had a chance to live with, for a year, I lived with Japanese tennis players in California.
Yeah.
They were from Japan, and I had a lovely experience with the culture. They were great people, very proud, but very loving and very giving and very inclusive, I found. But I have heard that, just like you said, the exclusivity of it, too, of kind of nationalism that Japan has as well, is there, too. So I don't know. It'd be a fun experience to listen to from afar. I would love to do it myself, but it's not in my plans at this moment. But if you decided to do that, that'd be very interesting to see how you would go and fit in. And I'm curious, do you know any Ugandans who live in Japan?
Not so many.
Not so many? Not any? Zero?
I would say zero from my relationship. Yeah, zero.
Okay. And then, so last question I have on this is, what is Hitomi thinking? What do you think her plans are going to be? What is she stating to you? She's thinking of coming to the U.S. for college. Now, is this going to deter her from leaving Japan for grad school? Is she going to stay there? How is this kind of bias affecting her decision?
It's affecting her decision to move on, basically. Because she wants good education. She wants a job. She's not U.S. citizen. That's what makes it even harder. So if she wants to come study in the U.S., she's not sure if she would love to live in the U.S. She's not sure if she'll be able to get a job. And the only place she feels secure getting a job is Japan. So for her, and if she wants to go abroad and there's a bias for students who go abroad and come back, that really puts things hard for her.
Yeah, makes sense. And follow-up question, what would it be like if she moved to Uganda with you? Would she be immediately, I doubt she'd be immediately accepted, but would she be immediately accepted? What would her experience be there? How is the Ugandan culture towards, a Japanese woman coming into society and from a job perspective is what we're talking about. And a cultural perspective too. Is she accepted?
If you didn't know, Ugandans is one of the most welcoming countries in the world. Just putting it out there so people can know. Nobody's going to publish that in this modern day, but I'm doing that from the fact, and it's very true. You yourself have come to Uganda.
I had a great time in Uganda. Yeah.
So,
lovely people.
Uganda, she will be accepted. She will feel home. She'll get a job anytime. It's a nice place. We're about welcoming people. We are accepting. We have so many differences. Uganda, we have had, imagine a country living with about more than 50 different kinds of people, 50 tribes. Those 50 tribes, we have about maybe 40-something languages. Even some languages are becoming extinct because people just agree to come together. Nobody's holding up to the values, the culture things, and, so it's interesting but I'm not sure if she would love to really live in Uganda for a long time. As I told you, Japanese, they value some of the things, and some of the things they said they value, as she explained, was language. So she doesn't want to lose that, and she's so sensitive about language. She'd love to live in a place like US where it's only English. She says if she comes to Uganda, language is going to be a big thing for her.
Swahili.
Swahili, Luganda, and those things. So it's interesting.
No, I think it's a great cultural perspective of, how would you feel going there and how would she feel going to Uganda? Those are really interesting topics. And I think, I certainly think that part of the issue we have in America right now is there are some people who have not been able to travel the world.
Yeah.
So they have different perspectives. So many of these different cultures are scary to them. And, what we find out about fear is that most of fear is make-believe. It's in our head.
Yeah.
Until you face it and you look at it and you go, oh, that wasn't that scary.
That's right.
So, I think it's interesting that Japan seems to be discouraging, Japanese people to travel the world and get further education from outside and come back. That seemed to be the perspective in Uganda was, yeah, go get an education out, but come back.
Come back.
Bring that education back here and let's make Uganda better. And I will say I loved my time in Uganda and the people were amazing. Before we get to That's a Wrap, I want to bring my 6-year-old son on and John's little brother to say goodbye to Johnny and maybe just appreciate Johnny for a minute. And I'll go first to give RJ a chance, is that I've got 3 things that I'm thankful for John that I'm going to really miss about him when he's gone. And this is only a short-term goodbye. This will be the end of our first season. John will be back. We'll be shooting another season and planning for that here in the upcoming weeks. So there'll be another season coming soon. So this is not a forever goodbye. But what I'll miss while he's gone is that you are genuinely a kind person, and I'm going to miss that about you. Your positive vibes. I'm going to miss making sausage Alfredo with you, that we invented sausage Alfredo. Those are the things that I'm really going to miss while you're gone. What are you going to miss about Johnny while he's gone? Speak nice and loud.
Soccer.
Yeah? You guys play soccer in the basement?
Yeah.
You're going to miss that? What else are you going to miss about Johnny?
When I'm calling him chicken.
You're going to miss, yes, you guys consistently call each other chicken. Yes, you little chicken. That's what I hear all the time.
Will
Okay.
you miss the little chicken or the big chicken?
Big.
A big chicken. I'll miss my small chicken too.
And what else? One more thing? And that's it for today. This is your premiere. This is your first time on a podcast.
Bye-bye.
And you're out of here.
Bye.
Okay. That's what we get from our 6-year-old. He's in and out. Okay. We're going to miss Johnny. But, John, I really am sincerely going to miss you. It was a fun 2 months at home. And you're going to go back to college. You're going to knock it out of the park. I'm really proud of you. And I'm going to be sad to take you to the airport this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'll miss you too. You've been a really influential figure in my life. You're bringing up the potentials, the things I never knew I could do. So I'm so happy to be with you and learning every day, as I'm telling you. My learning doesn't come easy. I have to question. That's how it goes. Like for me, my world is, especially in America, is so small. So for me to get into deep discussions with you, I'm learning so much and I'm so happy to be with you.
Yeah,
I miss you so much.
I've learned a lot from you too. I think it's important to note that, I'm in a position to be a father figure and a mentor to you. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
But also realize how much that I learned from you too. That's the important part. It's not a one-way street. It's a two-way street. And I certainly see areas where you need to grow and you need to be stronger so you can achieve your best, which is what I really want for you. But I also learned so much from your cultural perspective, and you've got certain skills that are just really well developed from you growing up in Uganda, with a single mom and having so much freedom early on, and you sharing those perspectives are very special. So for that is a wrap now, and let's please go rate us 5 stars wherever you get your pods. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at LBarrier Podcast.
Talk with us on our email, languagebarrierpodcast@gmail.com. Remember the saying, sharing is caring. And I found another one, interesting one. Share what you hear.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Till next time. Till next season.
Who knows what I know? Only Jah know what I know. Every day day's a struggle, every day's a hustle. But one thing me tell you, never give up in a life. I remember how much work you've been putting in day after day. Waking up early in the morning, working out late till